Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcott here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV coworkers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
All right, here we are again. Welcome back to the Music Lounge. Perry, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Andrew.
Good,
How
I'm
are
good.
you today?
We had a little award show that we used to work on this week. I know this will air in about a month or so, but it brought back a lot of memories watching the VMAs.
It did, yeah. Makes me nostalgic for being there during the VMAs, but maybe also happy that I'm no longer running around and chasing talent for 2 or 3 hours during a
Yeah,
crazy show
exactly.
like that.
The live shows always make me think of our guest who we have this week. So why don't you tell us who we have?
So we've got Frank Polonia, also known as Cheech, who was formerly director of standards and practices at MTV. So he was making sure that nothing inappropriate got through to the audience, and is currently the VP of Global Music at Vidya. Welcome, Cheech.
Thank you
What's
very
up?
much.
How
Happy
are
to be
you?
here. I'm
Good.
great. Can't complain. Still married, so things are going okay,
That's
I guess, right?
That's it. Before Perry starts, I just want to throw out, did you ever get paid on the side for letting the video go through?
No, not for letting the video go through, because I get my
I know,
get
I'm
fired
just
for that.
kidding.
But the relationships that I forged because of the video editing sort of lends itself to what I'm doing now, because I was a proponent for why should you guys submit the video, it get to the music department, and then it gets messed up by standards. Like, we should change the order of that. So I kind of made myself available to labels, artists, managers, so that they could, get their premiere when they need it.
Smart thinking.
My position at MTV was sort of like the toss away job. Like, I got in there as an assistant. It was Kathleen Shire at the time wanted to get me in there, so she said, "Take the position as an assistant, and I'll fast track you to at least coordinator." And I quickly realized that nobody wanted to review videos, nobody wanted to deal with the music department. They gave that to the assistant when they start, and then once they move up, they give it to the next assistant. So the process was a mess. And I didn't understand how I'm working at music television, and the last thing on your mind is
Right.
the music. Didn't make sense to me. So I decided, since throughout the whole day we deal with the music department so frequently, it essentially was a channel. It was another channel. So I was like, why don't you just let me have the music department, and I will deal with them, and I'll grow from there. So I took that
You were
just to get
like
close to you guys.
almost part of the team,
I mean, I would go to the live events. I would go to your meetings. I would consult artists and help them get the video to a place where it can air. So yeah, I thought that was really important. I don't understand why no one else did.
So just taking a step back, can you actually describe what standards and practices is and what it does for a channel like MTV?
Yeah, so there are a lot of groups, mothers groups, teacher groups, and all people that are very conservative, and everything that seems a little bit less than super clean. They write to their senators and their congressmen and make complaints, and it became a thing, especially around the time when Imus made his comment on air, and when Janet Jackson's boob was exposed at the Super Bowl. That sort of made it shed a light on the department, on that actual aspect of media. No one knew about it. I didn't. So basically what we would do is sort of guard the moral fabric of our youth by making sure that the content they see is clean enough for their little virgin ears. In a nutshell, that's what standards and practices does. We sort of proactively look at stuff and compare it to other networks and make sure that we're sort of in line with what is acceptable and what isn't, parental guidelines and ratings, and sort of being proactive when anything happens in the media that we might need to go back and clean something, as a result. So we were always on guard, we were always on call, and we were always watching television, which is the best part of the job. It's like I actually was hired to watch TV and movies and videos all day. What's better than that?
Was there a specific internal show that gave you sort of the most headaches or edits?
These things kind of pass through different people through my tenure. Real World was difficult because of the sex, the nudity, and what everyone saw on the Real World was nowhere near what actually was on the Real World. So that was hard. People that like to push the envelope a lot. I remember Human Giant. I remember Jackass. Anybody that's pushing the envelope, doing crazy stuff. Anything that would be imitatable by some impressionable kid is what
Dirty
we would look out for.
Sanchez. Do you remember that?
Dirty
on MTV
Sanchez.
too?
Yeah.
So when you dealt with the FCC, did they put out guidelines, or did you have a contact person that you could go back and fight for certain things, or did you have just strict guidelines?
Well, there were different levels in our department, and we had our fearless leader, Janet Borelli, who was always listening to us and sort of giving us a place to come to her and let her know why we think something should change, why we should push the envelope, why we should allow Lady Gaga to have Pussy Wagon on her video. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things that we have to be actual human beings to understand. So it was really difficult to draw the line between what we're actually there to do and the actual culture we're there to protect. So it wasn't really cut and dry. It was very subjective. Things changed on a whim. Somebody could be feeling away one day and call something what it isn't. I remember we made an edit for an artist that was black and Asian, and she called herself Blasian. And we had a whole half a day discussion on whether or not that's racist and whatnot. It's those kinds of back and forth and exchanges that made our job exciting and kept us on the cutting edge of what.
Now, we definitely gave you a lot of credit when edits came back and the video was cleared, but then you also delivered the bad news as well.
Yeah, that was the side effect of my job. I remember saying no to certain videos, like absolutely not. This is glorifying gang violence. Absolutely not. And people fight me on it.
Yeah.
People still know who I am when I remind them, hey, I was the guy that used to ruin your videos. And they're like, that was you.
That's funny, man. I mean, another part of your job outside of the office was being that tape delay operator and having your finger on the censor button. When I was watching the VMAs, I'm always trying to catch a slip, or people always think about, how does that happen? Who is that? So you having done that, any memories that come up from being that guy for the live events? And was there anything that you or the team missed that got on air that you're like, oh man, I let a fuck go through, something like that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Was it also blurred, or was it just audio kind of censoring?
Well, it depends. For the live events, we wouldn't be able to blur on command. And for the audio, which is what we were there to protect and fix, we would have, depending on the magnitude of the show, they would give us anywhere from 5 to maybe 15, 20 seconds to go back and actually catch it. So they give you, the show that you watch on television is actually delayed by about 20 seconds. And that gives us time to catch something that he's just said fuck, go back. So we'd go back about 20 seconds, wait for it, and catch it.
How many of you are doing a show like a...
Well, the VMAs, there would be like a team of us at the network operating center in Long Island. And that's where we would get the show beamed out to us from the location. And that beam is coming from a truck outside the venue where we have another team. And then we have our boss or whoever's in charge of the event on the floor. So we would have three stops, and we would have them all on radio. So if Janet Borelli's on the floor and she sees that somebody flashed their boobs or someone lit a joint, she would alert us they're or they're ranting. She goes, it's a rant, it's a rant, and
Right.
then we would all get ready and we would catch it. So if the first team didn't catch it, the last team would. So we had a pretty good system. But when Kanye West gets up there, or someone of that caliber, where they just kind of rant, yeah, we've missed a few. And I remember, I think it was specifically the Kanye show where he was really prevalent in the show. There was a lot of missed stuff because of the delay process.
Interesting.
But I was pretty surgical with it, man. I mean, my background is in DJing and engineering, so the sound cues were nothing to me. And I was the one that ended up training
Were
everybody that
you
came
on
after.
site, or have you been at all different stops along that process?
I've been at all different stops, and every year
Okay.
we would alternate. And then we got a lot more shows as time passed, so we would have like alternating teams, and best guy would be on the best show and whatnot.
And that was you, right?
Generally, I would be on the
Nice.
first line of defense for that reason. It was awesome. It was the best part of the job, and the team was fun. It was great.
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think that like the Standards and Practices team was fun, but I mean, you describing it, it totally sounds that way because you've got so much, I don't know how to say power, but so much say as to what's happening across the whole channel. So that's kind of cool.
It totally felt that way, man. It really did. And that's so funny you say that because that's what I thought of the job. So I was wondering why everyone was okay painting us as suits or like shrugging and being annoyed that, oh God, Stanley's coming. I was like, why is that? Like, we should be working with them so that they deliver something that they like and know is clean enough, as opposed to letting you get all the way to the finish line and then be like, man, you can't do that. Now you're going to incur cost, time, people got to come back and do reshoots. I was like, why are we not on set?
Right, yeah.
So I was one of the only ones that ever actually traveled from that department. You know?
It's very smart. What was one of the most censored music videos that you can remember? I assume the genre probably was hip hop, but I could be wrong about that. And also, how many times did you go back and forth with a label on requested edits for one video?
Well, we would get secondhand info because the labels would communicate with the music department. The music department would come down to us, and then we would consult them, and they'd go back with what we said. So it could be extensive because sometimes people would actually not even listen to what we said, and they try to like trick us or something. Like, they're not going to see it. Let's just leave that in there. So we've gone back and forth quite a bit with a bunch, and it's been a while, so I can't really remember specifically. But the two examples I remember were like a big topic was the Lady Gaga Beyonce video with the
telephone, right? Was that the video?
Yeah. Telephone. Yeah. It was the one attached to a Quentin Tarantino movie. And that was a great video, great song, and it was a big priority for the label, Gaga and Beyonce, of course. So that got a lot of stuff okayed. And we justified it by saying it's part of a movie, and it's not really this, it's fantasy. And those are the things we would use to justify stuff. One that I banned, and I didn't allow at all, was one by T.I. I think it was called either Red or called Flag, one of the two. And it was basically an advertisement for Bloods. I was like, it was like if I could find the lyrics, which I think I have somewhere, it was like it looked like I didn't do my homework and the teacher just berated me on paper with red ink.
That's what I remember Foster the People, Pumped Up Kicks, and there was a gun reference, and we wouldn't play that for months, and I was the label rep, and it was on Columbia, and it was being played everywhere. It was a big song.
Better Run, yeah.
And they finally made the edit.
Yeah, they had to because we were actually a destination back then. You needed to be on MTV, and that was a big-ass record. But there were also some good school shootings going on at the time. And we couldn't risk what they were saying, although it was a message, and it was sort of like an editorial to the fact. I thought they still didn't allow it because people wouldn't understand what the message is.
And,
they would just hear
and you did have a bit of leeway. You would kind of time designate videos to say they can only play after 10 o'clock or something like that. And you also said this one can only play on MTV.com. So sorry, Perry, you were a dumping ground for explicit content as well.
Which interesting because that's where people could go to watch anything at any time. So kind of didn't make sense. Yep. Hey, so one other video I remember, and I don't know if it rings a bell for you. There's a video by the band called Hoobastank, and it was a heist that they were doing, and they had to add the audio of a siren at the end of the video to make it seem like they were paying for doing this criminal deed.
That's very good. I remember those. Like, we needed, okay, if you're going to show that, then you can't get away with it, because then you're glorifying violence. But if there's a consequence and we show that consequence, then that's how you can. Those are the discussions that we would have. We came up with that in a meeting about how we're going to let them have it. Where before they would just be like, no, and that's it. No dialogue.
That is so funny. I really didn't know most of this stuff was going on. I mean, I knew we had standards and practices. I knew it was relevant to award shows. I knew it was most outrageous music videos, but the minutia that you talk about is incredible, because it could be a line in a song. It could be a fleeting image. It could be the theme, or it could be the tone, or it could be whatever. And those are lines that you guys felt couldn't be crossed, and you had to make that call, and we had to go back to the labels and let them know that this wasn't going to pass muster with our standards and practices team.
Yeah, and people, what they don't understand, what most people don't understand, is that if we allow those lines to be crossed, it could cost the company a ton of money. Like, that's why we were there, to, prevent that from happening, because MTV was a producer in the Janet Jackson show. So basically anything that happened in the world, anything that anyone saw on television, whether it was us or not, they would say MTV. They would just say MTV. We were poisoning the moral fabric of the country and our youth. And they would blame us because we were like the cultural leaders and we were just showing everything. So we were in Washington all the time, arguing. And that's why we had our job, and that's why we were very strict sometimes, because it could cost hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, if we cross it.
And it's funny you say, MTV was the leader of a generation of music and TV fans, and that's really the genesis of this podcast, is that we kind of feel like that was the last time MTV was sort of heading up youth culture.
Yeah, we were the dopest, man. I remember the end, what I saw as the end, because my office was right on Times Square, so I could see. The minute that I saw Revolt taking over what we used to own with TRL right across the street from us, and Diddy had just left Viacom, I was like, oh shit, that's it. That's like I'm shitting in your yard.
And then we do 24 hours of Martin and other acquired content.
That's all you see is those shows.
We're gonna segue to part of the podcast that we call Quickfire. 30-second quickfire rounds. Okay. Used to be in standards and practices, so you should be quick on your toes, right?
Yeah, but I'm old.
It's fine. It's fine. All right. Most shocking VMA moment: Britney, Madonna kiss, or Kanye interrupts Taylor?
I would say Kanye.
Most visual music videos: Missy Elliott or Busta Rhymes?
That's difficult.
All right. Punks or the Real World? Pick My Ride or
Real
Cribs?
World. Cribs.
Stressful, right? Stressful.
Yeah. Especially the Missy question.
Both are very, very, very close. So in your career at MTV, you said you created a role for yourself, which means you had a lot of freedom. Was there an iconic video that you were proud of, that you helped bring it to life and you were the one that cleared it? Anything that sticks out?
I can't answer that question. I can't remember. It'll probably come to me. But I'll tell you a moment that stands out to me. I remember watching, and I used to scour the blogs at the time, all hip hop and all that, because I was still active in the music business. So I stayed on that. And one day I saw a video by a young artist called D1, It was where he was addressing Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and Nas, and I loved it. And I called Tuma like, Tuma, have you seen this? And he was like, yeah, I haven't seen it, but hey, if you want me to play it, fine. So I was like, all right. And I found D1, and I got him on the network. And you see D1 now. It's not because of me, obviously, but man, that's a big leap for him to get on jams, to have the attention of Tuma, and now he's in the media all the
That's
time. He
amazing.
still remembers that. Every time I see him, he's like, Cheech. And who would have known me from Standards at that time if I didn't do that?
I love it. That's a good one.
So, spending 10 years at MTV, you got to talk to a lot of folks at labels and meet a lot of managers and meet a lot of artists, I assume, too, in some respect. So how did that translate into what your job is now as the VP of Global Music at Vidya?
So honestly, the relationships I had in music were from my work as an engineer and everything that led me to Viacom. And honestly, my life was a mess before Viacom. I was like I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I was with my wife and girlfriend at the time, and I knew I needed to do something. So the catalyst was getting this job at Viacom. It was Kathleen Shire hired me, and everything's been up and positive since.
Shout out to Kathleen.
So shout out to Kathleen, who's at A&E now. So how did I get to where I'm at now? It was because I was using Vidya to deliver the content I was actually creating to Tuma, who agreed to play it on jams.
Interesting.
So Roy Lamanna, who owned Vidya and was that guy, he asked him like, "Who the hell is this dude that I keep getting these videos from, and you guys don't take him down and you're playing him? Like, who is he? How's he getting these features?" Because I don't know if you know this, but the rapfest.com, that was me and my boys. We used to shoot ciphers, and I would have jams play them. So he asked me to come out to lunch, and I met him downstairs, and he told me that he's about to disrupt the industry. This is what's next. It's a dying fucking ship up there. You should come with me. It took him 2 years to convince me of it, but one day I took the leap, and here I am, 7 years later.
So, I mean, being in that role of standards and practices as well, as you said, bring me in at the beginning and let's end with a great visual that's clean and safe and good for air. Having that visual mindset must play a good role with your content creation side at Vidya, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the relationships I got translate to deals that I'm doing now, and also what people are looking for, what the business looks like. Are videos important? Like, where should we spend money? These kinds of things are, oddly enough, I know because of
Right.
Viacom. Because all the people that I deal with now, they either went through there or are in the world now. A lot of people in your department are all the
Yeah.
playlisters now.
Yeah. Any conversations that you're having now when you kind of bring back what you used to do at MTV? People are like, holy shit, that's cool. Are people interested in your past life?
Well, a lot of people don't
Okay.
really understand it. Yeah, I worked at Viacom and I was the bleeper. That's what I tell them.
Because now, are there still heavy standards and practices online or not as much as it was back then?
Well, a lot of the people I work with, well, not a lot, a few of them, they went to Netflix, they went to Apple. Anybody that has original content
Right.
has a standards department. So it's still out there. It's still a thing.
And then also, what platforms are people creating videos for mostly these days?
Well,
I mean,
it looks like, it seems to people are still shooting music videos, but they're shooting them a lot cheaper. There's not big budgets for music videos. And what they're doing is doing a lot of like short form stuff that works on TikTok. Unless you're a bigger artist and need videos, a lot of the Latin American artists use YouTube, so they shoot videos because that's where the music is consumed outside of the States. Not a lot of people pay for a subscription for Spotify, so they go to free YouTube. So that's why you see videos there still. People still shoot them for that reason.
and I mean, you've got also like the big artists still. I mean, obviously we were talking earlier how the VMAs just aired, and Taylor won Video of the Year for Fortnite, and so people are still spending money on videos, but it seems to be it's only for like a superstar actor artist.
Well, I mean, rappers do shoot videos a lot. There's a lot of people that do or are part of this business that don't really understand it, even though they might look like they're thriving. There's a lot of stuff people don't understand, and that's another thing I learned over the years is there's a lot of people just kind of shooting from the hip. They don't have any rhyme or reason. They just do shit. That goes all the way to the top too.
You have to have a strategy, a roadmap,
It-
a plan.
It's a little bit of take it till you make it, way of thinking.
Interesting. Mixing with a lot of labels and artists, did you go to a lot of shows, and was there like a favorite New York venue that you love going to see shows at, or one show that you always remember? I guess it's a two-part question.
Well, to be completely honest, this is going to sound weird.
Okay.
I don't enjoy shows. I don't like the crowds. I don't even like the backstage. I don't like the loudness. Weird. But I'll tell you what, I went to the Beacon Theater with my friend Mr. Mac, with Matt Hoffa. I forgot what the name of it is. But anyway, he's on that podcast, and he brought me with him to the Green Room, and it was DMX night. And I met DMX. And I have pictures of DMX. And then I told him that I have his first single ever on vinyl. He was like, "Oh yeah, what's your favorite verse?" And I froze. I was like, I couldn't even. I went blank. And Mr. Mac had to come and spit the verse for me, and I was like, "Yeah, that's it."
That's awesome.
But you don't like going to live shows, crowds. Interesting. But you love music, right?
I love music. I love the business. I love the creation of music. I love being in the studio. But for me, when I go to the club or anything like that, or a show, the minute the music starts, I'm out. I've already seen who I need to see. Nothing more is going to come of this.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Loved having you, man. Really good to catch up.
Appreciate it.
Bro, my face is sweating because I'm enjoying this so much. Walked up memory lane. It's awesome.
That seems to be a theme, man. We love reconnecting with old friends and co-workers. And hopefully the viewers that we have will learn something interesting. And some really good stories.
Yeah, thank you very much again.
Enjoy the weekend, man. Let's catch up soon. See you, Frank. Bye.
Have a great day.
All right, talk to you later. Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.